Okay, we're back, and in this video we're actually going to finish making the starter that we had previously started. And it was actually a couple extra days, so there's actually a liquid on the top of it. And that's a really interesting thing about that liquid because it's called the Hooch, which sounds pretty funny, but when you look at the etymology or where that word came from, it actually comes from the word Hoochinu. And I'm going to read. It's actually a rum-like drink produced by the Tlingit people. And Tlingit is actually spelled T-L-I-N-G-I-T, but in that language, they pronounce it Tlingit. And it's a member of an Indian people from the coastal regions of Alaska and British Columbia. So it's actually a rum-like drink. And it became to be called a cheap, low quality liquor, and that became the term for hooch because they originally made that. So it's abbreviation of Hoochinu, name of a specific liquor from those people, the group that produced it. And that actual name hooch comes from Huts Nuwu, which in their language means grizzly bear fort. And that's the name of the village on Admiralty Island in which they lived. And so that's where the word hooch comes from, that sits on top, because it has a very small alcoholic content as it sits there, very, very small. And so when that's there, the main thing is when you take it out, if you ever have any off-smelling, anything around the cup or anything, you can simply wipe it off. That's like a guard for the rest of your starter against any organisms that should not be in there. Actually, any organisms that would break it down or mold it, corrupt it, cannot even exist in it because it's preserved. And by definition, when something is preserved, nothing can break it down, so it can't even exist in it. So it's actually like a fort in itself. So you can pour it off and add more water. You should do it another day. We're going to need more than that. We're going to need about that much. So, but since I have another starter and I'm going to make another one in the future and put these together all into one video, why don't we just do it like that? We'll keep that and go ahead and put some more flour in there. Now this flour was ground up from the wheat berries, and in a future video I'm going to be talking about the different types of flour, why you should and shouldn't use certain flours, and what's in them. But this is just ground up wheat berries. So we can take a spoonful of that, another spoonful. You don't really know what got into that. That's a little dried piece of flour. But you don't want to complicate this. Everything needs to be simple. You don't have to worry about your starter. If you're going to be a little ways away from it, just throw it in the fridge, and it'll keep in there. Now I'm going to take some spring water and put over the top. Don't know that I need much. Let's see how much I need first. Let's stir that in there. It's getting a little doughy. You could leave it as dough if you so choose. You know, in ancient times, they used dough. They just saved an old piece of or a used piece of the dough from the previous bread making and took that dough and put that dough into the next bread making. So we now make more of a slightly liquefied starter and add it to the dough, but you can take a piece of the fermented dough before you put it in the oven and keep that one till the next time, and that can be your starter. It's the energy of the substance that's going on inside of it is what you're adding to the next batch. So think of it like a battery. This is a stored battery of life energy that will not allow any corruption, any breaking down, any rotting. Once again, when oxygen gets to the residue on the side of the cup, that before it starts, it takes on that property and gets sour, and gets that protection built into it. Before that, if it starts having any sort of rotting or spoiling before then, that can happen. And if you see any on the side of that cup, you can simply just put a little spring water on a paper towel. I'm just demonstrating, I don't have any, but you can just go around the edge and take it off, because it is not going to get, if you follow the directions right and you start with just a little bit, like you're kindling a fire, it is not going to get any spoilage into that lower part or past that hooch. So right across the top, you can wipe that off, but it'll smell just like flour and just smell perfect. And so that is done. We're going to set that aside again. Now, the reason I put a piece of plastic on there is just to keep the air level down. You don't really have to do that either, but the less oxygen that it gets to it, the less chance for any spoiling on the side, or spoilage starting on the side of the cup. But just remember, people for centuries and centuries were making bread and on the move and traveling, and so this process is simple, it's effective, it nourishes you, and as it should be simple, and everyone should be able to do it. So that's how that finishes up. I'll come back when it is set for another day, but once that's sour like that, you're set. Now you can do, what I've begun to start doing is adding that starter to the dough ball just like it comes out of the refrigerator, because I'll leave it in there when it's a longer time, just so it doesn't keep fermenting really fast. There's two ways to go about it. One is you can add a little bit of flour into it about 6 hours before you make your dough, and it bubbles up, and then you transfer it. Many people think that when it's very active like that, it rises your dough a little bit more. Again, I haven't seen any difference, so I've got to the point where I just make it, and once it's made, I set it aside, I put it in the fridge. When I'm ready to use it, I take it out and use that in the dough. And you saw the last loaf. Now, the last loaf has that much left, and that's not going to be enough for the next week. So, in the next video, I'm actually going to make more bread. And I'm telling you, it's great nourishment, and I'm actually going to do it very quickly. So that's the way that it should be done. So we'll be back for that. You know, who would have ever thought that an indigenous people from the Northwest, from a small island, Admiralty Island off the coast of British Columbia, the Tlingit people, which means people of the tides, who knew that they would actually have a term that was in their language that would eventually be part of sourdough culture? The starter, the top that forms on a starter. It's pretty amazing the things that happen and the amazing discoveries you make as you go through. And that's what we plan to do here, is give you a lot of different interesting things like that. And in the next video, I'm actually going to recap on making the bread and actually have it done in under 5 minutes. So you're going to make sourdough in less than 5 minutes. It's going to happen. It's going to happen for you. And it's time to go ahead and start your starter. Put that first inch and a half of dough or of flour into your cup. And if you want, you can get a jar like this and come back in a day, do it again, come back in another day and do it again. Make sure you use spring water or purified water, and you're going to be off to the races, because when you see me in the next video make sourdough in 4 minutes, or roughly around 4 minutes, you're going to be ready for it. You're going to say, I'm ready. So I thank you for your support, and I look forward to making videos for you. If you would, kindly subscribe down below and also hit the like button, and let me know what you think about these videos. Let me know what you think about finding some of these things out, and put that in the comments below. I look forward to the next video, and we will see you soon. You know, who would have ever thought that an indigenous people from the Northwest off the coast of British Columbia on Admiralty Island, the Tlingit people, which means people of the tides, who would have thought that they would have a term in their language that would actually become part of sourdough culture, the hooch. And that's the amazing thing about learning. You start to learn one thing and it just leads to another. And that's what I'm trying to do here. You know, teach you much about food and food health and just amazing secrets that you might never have heard before. And so in the next video, I'm going to take you to see how to make sourdough bread in, well, it's basically going to be about 4 minutes. And you're going to be on the road to making it for yourself. You're ready to make starter, so get started on your starter. And after you see me make it, or at least the preparation of it, and ready to go into the oven, in about 4 minutes, right just over, you're going to say to yourself, you know, I'm ready to make this part of my life. I can do this. And I'm telling you, you can do it. If you like what you see on these videos, just right down below, hit the subscribe button and also thumbs up. I appreciate that. And also, I really like to hear your comments, what you think about what you've learned. And if you have anything you'd like to learn that hasn't been talked about yet, I plan to do a lot of things, but I really like to hear your comments down below. I look forward to doing these videos for you. I really appreciate your support, and I will see you soon.